to welcome our second speech giver of today, Alan Gray. Alan? And speech is My Surprise Party, Alan Gray.
How many of you have ever been a part of a surprise party? Thrown one, given one? And how many of you did that person for whom it was thrown not like the surprise? Yeah. Surprise parties are tricky, right? Because the line is really fine between happy fun time and burglary. It's like trying to give a surprise party for a horse. You don't know if they're going to eat the carrot or just kick you in the chest for it. I have a handful of surprise parties in my life. When I was 24, just before I turned 24, I came out as gay to my family. And on my 24th birthday, my father called me to tell me how angry he was that I'd been hiding who I was my whole life. Yeah, because there's nothing a kid wants more for their birthday than their parents' disappointment. Although even that pales in comparison to my 7th birthday, which we threw at a McDonald's. You know how they used to have the ball pit and the slides? Well, after an afternoon full of soda and greasy fast food, and I got to be the first one to go down the slide into that ball pit, had a little accident going down the slide, and it was a surprise to about the next 8 kids who went down the slide after. We paid for a lot of laundry bills after that party. But by far the biggest surprise I ever had in my life was on my 30th birthday. The plan then was my partner and I were going to meet at a friend's apartment that lived between where he and I worked. We were going to meet there, hang out for a little bit, and then go out for dinner and drinks. Which I thought was weird, but when you date an artist, you get used to a level of weird in a relationship. So I just went with it. And I was a little apprehensive going into this party because I hadn't really just been celebrating my birthday. It'd been more like celebrating my birth week. The whole week before my birthday, I'd been going out after work and on the weekends with friends, drinking at bars, hanging out, and most of the time, if I'm honest, drinking a little too much. There were a few times I woke up on the subway way past where I was supposed to go and had to pull myself back together. It wasn't really a great look at work the next morning. I thought my partner was a little uncomfortable with all of this, but he's throwing me this party, so I really didn't think anything of it. So that day, my birthday, it was a weekday, and I actually had to go to work that day. But fortunately, it was one of those set your own hour kind of jobs. So I got to leave early, went to my local bar, hung out, had drinks, went to meet my partner for dinner. I show up at my friend's apartment, I go inside, and I see my partner, but my 2 best friends, none of whom own this apartment that we're actually meeting. And I look at them, and they just kind of have this awkward look back at me. And I say, "Is this an intervention?" And they say, "Yes." And I went, "Fuck." Not really, but you know what I said. See, what I hadn't told you was that week of partying too much was really more like 10 years of partying too much. My drinking, I thought, was never really a problem because I had this amazing job and I had this great partner and I freed myself from my parents' grueling, overbearing nature. But the truth is that I was pretty much hurting everybody around. My partner worked nights, which gave me license to drink as much as I wanted during the day. And when he would come home and find the apartment in complete disarray, he was a little less than thrilled. It was impacting my relationships with my friends and even my family across the country. So deep down, I wasn't terribly surprised that they were throwing this intervention, but I was very angry. Like I told you, I had already been drinking most of the day, and as John Mulaney says in his stand-up talking about his intervention, I had other plans that evening, and an intervention was not among them. But as drunk as I was, as unhappy as I was to be in that intervention, some part of me still knew how I was supposed to behave in an intervention and not get angry and not speak out at them and let them all have their turn. So I just sat and listened and let them say their piece. And my plan was, as soon as they were all done, I was going to go enjoy the rest of my evening. And so I sat there and listened, and honestly, standing here today, I don't really remember most of what they said. Most of it was me looking around going, you didn't even get me a cake. Like, there's no presents, no one saying happy birthday. Like, this is not a great party. And I was so angry listening to them about them ruining my birthday. And when they finally finished speaking, I said, okay, thank you. I'm going now. Except I had to count it on the fact that one of my best friends is this big, burly, 6'3", 200-pound guy who was not letting me leave that apartment until I agreed to get help. And eventually I did the thing that most addicts do. I broke down, I was crying, I was upset, and I agreed to get help. And as we were leaving at the end of this 2.5-hour intervention, my partner looks at me and goes, so, it's your birthday. You want to go out to dinner? And I look at him and I go, what do you think? The next day, I followed through on my promise, went to a meeting, and I still was so angry about it because they did the one thing that every millennial hates. They made me turn on location tracking on my phone. They knew where I was at every minute. I could not leave my phone out of my hands. And so they knew that I went to that meeting. And they knew that I went to the next one. And the one after that. And I'm happy to say that that was 5 years, 6 months, and 22 days ago. And I haven't had a drink since.
Woohoo!
I share this story with you because the thing that keeps most addicts out of recovery is a fear of stigma. I admit I have a problem, there's something wrong with it. I'm here to tell you that I'm confident that no one in this room thinks that about me. No one has ever in my life thought that about me. If I can stand here and admit my past, admit my recovery, in a room full of some friends, some soon-to-be friends, without any fear of judgment or repercussion, those in your life feeling a similar struggle can do so as well. Help is out there. All you have to do is ask. Promise.